Everybody, want to welcome you to Team Growth Mastermind. Great to have you back with us, Andy Warburton, as you know. And the whole objective here today is to meet powerful teams around the country and find out what they're doing now, what they're going to do next, and what we can learn from each other so that we can do what we do even better. Okay, so today, really happy to have my friend Joe Oz from the Oz Group. He's got a really interesting system that we're going to hear about. But he's grown from 20 million to 100 million in the last very few years, couple of years or so. He'll tell you more details. His sales director, they're very close partners, is Chris Stiles. Chris, good to see you, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
And I'm not one for big, long introductions, so let's just hit it. You're in New Jersey, Chris, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in Morristown, New Jersey.
And what's so interesting, guys, is Joe is actually in California. And they're in this expansion mentality. For those of you interested in expansion, this is a great conversation. Those who are interested in systems, this is a great conversation. Neither one of these two guys is braggers. They're just down-to-earth operators and really great people. So we're going to learn a lot of really good material. So guys, welcome. That's enough introduction. Let's hit it, yeah?
Yeah, sounds awesome. Thank you so much.
20 to 100 million, super cool. Set the stage a little bit, guys. Give us a quick background on yourselves and how you got to this place. And then let's get into the leads you're processing. And can we just like upfront, even before that, can I ask you this question? What percentage of your total closings is personal business, agents with personal business? And what percentage is from digital marketing, PPC, SMM, Zillow, Realtor.com, whatever?
Joe, do you want to go there? You want me to kind of dive into that?
Yeah, I'd like to say this. So we're heavy. Yes, I want Chris to answer that, but I'll preface it with so we're a heavy internet lead. We're a Zillow Flex partner and a Zillow Cello partner. I made a decision in 2018 to move my family from New Jersey, where I was a mega agent, to Orange County, California.
Wow.
Started in really like the end of 2019. We started in 2020 with like nobody. It was me.
In 2020.
In 2020, yeah. So I was in California, and I have a business partner. His name's Gil Olson. He's from the tech world. He's a really smart guy. His brain does all the things that my brain doesn't do in order to build a business. So I know I'm a professional, right? So I know what I know what I don't know, and I know the difference. I had known all the things that I couldn't do from failing forward so many times, and I finally asked for help. And so Gil came along and he helped me build it. He was in New Jersey. And so together, him and I started at zero, and we recruited, then we got the Zillow Flex opportunity, and that thing we harnessed that thing and leveraged that thing. So we got Flex and we joined EXP at the same time. And I believe that those two opportunities, I think they're just two incredible opportunities in 2020, 2021, 2022. So we built this whole thing off brand new agents, right? And so from there, and I did it all remotely, right? And so what got us here won't get us there. And we got to about last year was like 65 million. When we got to about 50 million, we needed like a sales manager, like in-house, like a person there. And so our price point at that time was probably like 500. So we're doing a lot of units. And yeah. And then so we brought on Chris. And so Chris has been with us for about a year, and dude, he's almost like doubled our business, man. He's like,
yeah, because he's business ground.
Yeah, so we started it like we're just doing something different, man. Like I haven't sold a house in a very long time. Like I'm not in production. Most teams have a team leader that's had a sphere of influence for a long time, has had a farm, a book of business, things like that. But yeah, I'll pass it off to Chris. Chris could probably answer that. Chris is like the numbers. He's a little bit more.
So Chris, you look at like what, 80% is Zillow, 70%?
I would say somewhere probably about 70, 75 is there. It's getting lower where our agents, we start to see some of that repeat referral business that comes from that. We start bringing more experienced agents on, providing different opportunities from Zillow sellers into like open house business. So it starts to get lower where agents start to produce, now we're bringing on agents that are producing on their own. But our platform has been Flex, that creates all of the opportunities for everything else around us.
So, I think a lot of people look at team leaders like yourselves and go, man, I would like to have a team. I'd like to grow to X number of people. I'd like to hit 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, right? And the issue is that scale, and scale has a number of pieces. And you could talk all day long about training and learning platforms and so on. But if you don't have leads to provide to agents, they're not going to stay on your team, right? So, right, well, they might over a period of time, but to grow like this, like you have, there has to be a tremendous infusion of leads. So I want to ask a little bit of a volatile question. Can somebody do this who's watching this mastermind if they don't have Zillow Flex?
Not particularly what we do. I think it's possible to definitely grow a team if you have like that branding. I think something we always say is just like, there's a lot of agents in our market that they have these big brands, and those are going to stick with them. But if like these up and coming teams that are developing the quantity of lead flow, and then I would say the other thing is support and operations. So, we're big on leads, training, and support. And I think those are the things. And when you get out into the market, you start having these conversations with different agents at different skill levels. You start to find out some agents aren't at a shortage of business; they're at a shortage of structure. They're at a shortage of support. And when you're able to bring an operations department on the back end and give them support from different places, that's where they start to see the model valuable.
So, what would you say in your operation there are the identify, between level 1 and level 10 going up an elevator, we've got 10 floors to talk, right? What are the top 3 things you do that provide operational support and structure that enable you to convert at such a high rate?
I think just, our training structures, and availability. Like, so how Joe's not in production, I'm rarely in production on the director of sales. So our 2 leaders are rarely in production. We're not out there. So they have an endless amount of support and contacts, just from a strategic standpoint, or getting offers accepted, getting a listing signed, preparing for a listing appointment, diving into it together. We always say that 2 heads are better than 1 on our team. And that's something that a lot of our agents, what we find out too, is the agents that are doing the best, we're collaborating on all of these transactions together. So providing agents that type of support, and the operations side, listing coordinating, transaction coordinating, trying to get them away from doing the paperwork, keeping themselves compliant, creating more time for them. Having, one thing one of our agents that just came back from vacation found very valuable was they were away for 2 weeks and they had support around the team helping them with everything. So providing those things and more time to spend with family and people that they trust to leverage out their open houses or their listings, et cetera. So
if I worked for you, you gave me a Zillow Flex lead, right? And I go out, I write an offer, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. I would call you and you would help me.
Yeah, absolutely. It would probably be before the offer even gets written.
Got it, mate. So then you we cut the deal, right? And now we've got to open escrow and do all the stuff we all are very familiar with. Who does all that stuff? The physical inspection, the pest control, are you an escrow state or attorney?
By the way, can I jump in here? Chris, about like you're asking about if someone needs help. Chris, we onboard our agents. Like so we're like also slow to hire, quick to fire. We used to bring everybody on. When Chris came on, Chris really dialed in our standards, right? Who we really want. Like
gotcha.
I started on the other side of the country with a Flex account. I was like, oh, you'll join me? Fuck yeah, cool. What, you have a pulse? Awesome. Like it was like not good. Like I was letting terrorists on the airplane, right? Like and Chris came in and that was one of the first things he fixed. He was like, dude, you're like, if I can be vulnerable, right? Like he was like, dude, you're like onboarding these people to just offboard them in 3 months, right? Like, because if you do a deal in 90 days, we like let you go. And during those 90 days, they're terrorists, man. Like they're bringing all their shit to you, man. And you're like, it's just not awesome. And one of the things Chris did was Chris came in and he was like, dude, we got to have standards here, man. Like we got to and he, by the way, I was a regional recruiter for KW.
So you knew recruiting. Yeah, you're familiar with
top 100 influencer at EXP, right? Like right? Like brought over brokerages, teams, whatever. And like here I am, just like shit, letting everybody on the bus. No metal detector, no nothing, dude, right? And so when that happened, that was a huge switch for us, man, because I was burnt out. He was starting to get burnt out.
Yeah.
And now we do. And then once he kind of taught me, he's like, all right, you're going to do an interview. you know, and we know who our people are, right? Like we don't take part-time. We look for victim language right out the gate. Like we say things like, hey, what are you doing to, like, what were you doing to make money before this? You know, what happened? How did that end? You know, if we look for victim language, and we look for people that we think are technology,
aware.
whatever. Yeah. Like if you can't watch a Zoom, can't hop on a Zoom in an hour on your phone, this isn't going to work, right? If you don't know what Slack is, or you can't work it, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? And so anyway, with all that being said and then after that, he had a conversation with them, and then he would have another, if he had a conversation with them and he was cool with it, right? Like, he would meet them, and then he would really dive deep. Like a big challenge we were having was, dude, agents just not knowing what they really get paid when they get that first paycheck, you know, not understanding the splits, the referrals. Like we'd have people get really salty, and Chris was able to like sit down and really nail this stuff down. And like no one's left this year, man. Like,
so this is great advice, because that first check is a shock, right?
Yeah. And let me say this. And then so now he does we used to do onboardings every month, and I would fly, like before he got there, I would fly back. I'd be so proud of having, like, I've got 8 people in onboarding, but I would like offboard 6 90 days.
Right.
And they would put strains on our org. Now when we find the right people, we onboard people. And then this conversation started with when they need help. Like Chris and I have done, I believe in it. Like I actually presented on this at Zillow Unlocked a year ago, was on stage, was just about like our onboarding process and how we onboard agents. So they know, like we like the tech enabled agent, like that, like we're not your grandma's real estate agent, like at Oz Group. Like we're not your grandma's real estate agent. If that's what you're looking for, that's not us. And we train them. We do a week-long training to get them up to speed on writing contracts, how to use the scripts, what to do, call the real estate agent. And we built that thing out, and we're actually rebuilding it out right now.
So tell us about that week. Is that 8 hours a day for a week?
I'll hand it off to Chris.
Yeah, because this is really good stuff, man. This is really good stuff. Everybody should know as well that Joe's on the board of advisors with Zillow. This is a really connected guy. We're really excited to have you on. So thank you. Chris, tell us about this week, man.
So our onboarding it's a 5-day week, usually somewhere like that 9 to 1 range, 4 hours a day. Day one's a group, like what we call it, like a big group hug. Where we're getting agents to know one another, understand our history, understand our vision, where we're trying to go with everything, and then start introducing them to how the leads come in, how they were processed, and we build that. Now we start diving in on day 2. We start listening to phone calls, diving into scripting, objection handling, role playing, and then day 3, we're going through our post-call connection checklist. What happens? All right, we set this appointment now. Now, what happens there? So we have a checklist, our post-call connection checklist, and we walk through that. What do you do first? You send out a text. What do you do second? You book the listing appointment. Like we walk them through every stage of the process, day 3. And then it all accumulates down to my favorite part is, now we're time to write offers. How does that process look here at Osmond, right?
Chris, I'm assuming that all the people you onboard are within a fairly tight geocentricity, like 20 miles apart, 20-mile radius, 50-mile radius.
So if they're not, so if they are, we do Zoom. So if they're close enough, we'll do something in person, but if not, we'll do it on Zoom.
So all the role playing and all that, you can do that on Zoom?
Yep.
You should do breakout groups?
We're just kind of going through each agent, like just one-on-one, like you and I would do. We would go through a script practice right now, and then they would do it together. I jump in with an objection, and we're able to do that on Zoom. And then we're able to do the in-person stuff because we're on 2 different sections of New Jersey, right? So it's hard to get somebody from over here, over there. But if they're in that section, then we do it in person, and we'll have these same things in person, which is a lot better. But it works pretty good on Zoom.
Big emphasis then, Joe, Chris, on pre-screening, picking the right person. Yeah, that's the takeaway I'm getting from this. Big emphasis on that.
Yeah, and then performance managing the early stages of it, right? I think something that we do extremely well on just the pure conversion side of it is now after the onboarding, we're going to test you out. It's not like you go through the onboarding and we just jump down. Now we're going to test everything that you learn from onboarding and if you're able to apply.
How do you do that?
We're just, we're one-on-one on a test out. Then we're going to go through the script. So we're going to ask them, now you've booked the appointment. What's your next step? So what do those look like? After you do this, what is your plan from there? When that first lead comes in, they're not, allowed to take a second one. Once the first lead comes in, we pull over to the side of the road, they ping me, and now we're going to look how we handle that lead. Did you set the appointment?
Wait a
How
minute,
did
wait a
that
minute,
go?
wait a minute. So, so agents come on board, you do the training, they take their first leads, they actually call you immediately afterwards and you debrief, like kind of like a CIA debriefing.
No, after we do a debrief on that, when the lead comes in, yeah, they pull to the side of the road and they contact me and we take a look at everything. And that's how we're able, what we found out is if so when we just let it loose and we just start letting a bunch of leads, that's how it all starts getting away. That's how we're able to not control our conversion. Something that I think we do really well, especially these last few months, is doing more with less. What you'll find out is like for us, our lead quantity went down, our conversion and our units went up. So slowly bringing them along and walking them through what happens when you get a lead. What do you do in the CRM? You can improve here. Make sure you set a task for the next day. Update the stage. Make your notes.
Wow, this
And now
is
you take your
excellent.
second one. So by the time they do get let loose, which we're still monitoring, they've went through this so many times on a slower level. It's not like they're dealing with 5 at a time, 6 at a time in a week. They're doing it one by one.
So how, I'm going to be a little provocative here. Let's say Zillow came to you and said, yeah, we need you in Chicago, we need you in Sarasota, and we need you in Chattanooga, and we need you in San Diego, right? How would you now do that if you have people in 4 places? I mean, you're the kind of guy that everybody needs. Joe, what a killer choice you made here, right? So you're the kind of guy that everybody needs and agents love because you're there supporting them. Obviously, Joe is too, but it sounds like you do a lot of this boots on the ground stuff. How are we going to split Chris between 5 states now? This is like this is kind of sort of be selfish here for a second, but it's kind of an obsession of mine right now that I think there's a lot of team leaders who really want to expand around the country. And are they going to expand? There are some that don't want to. They just want to be local. That's cool too, right? But for those who want to expand around the country, number one, how do I get leads around the country? Number two, how do I find Chris's around the country? Number three, how do I do a training like you just described around the country? And how do we scale it? And you have to think for companies like Homes and Zillow and Realtor and Redfin, they've also got to think, okay, do we bring on 50,000 team leaders around the country? Now we need 500 growth advisors to deal with them, and all of their personalities are different. Or do we bring on team leaders that can handle 10 states and I'm dealing with one person for $1 billion worth of transactions? That's got to be something that I would consider it if I was on the prop tech side management on a search portal. So that was a big, long question. You see where my head is at, right?
Yeah. I think the first thing, I mean, where our head is before that, I think it's our head is how do we do it all across New Jersey? Because we don't have to be hyper local in one market. Our market started in Monmouth County, Ocean County, New Jersey, which is an hour and some change from where I'm sitting right now in Northern Jersey, where we've begun to expand that way. So kind of maximizing what's around you, what you can have your hands on like locally first. And we have so many different markets here that we want to tap into before we even think about like that part of it. And then just to answer that question, because now you have my mind running.
Yeah.
It's, you start, the states that are closer, the places, because we could be in New York in 45 minutes or an hour, in Pennsylvania the other way within 50 minutes. So now you're,
very diverse.
This one.
Yeah,
exactly. But I think of growth across New Jersey and into different markets. How do you expand what we've done in Monmouth and Ocean into Morris and like Essex and surrounding lines? And then you go to different counties, and how do you start doing that?
Don't you think this is like a huge challenge? I don't want to labor this too much. We'll move on to something else. But that dilution that happens where, I mean, look, Joe Oz, all right. You tell me, Andy, I'm going to give you $200,000. I need you to find me 3 Joe Oz's in the next 2 months. Now, look, for all the goodwill in the world, I'm going to work really hard at it. Pretty difficult, right? And probably he would turn around the same thing and say of you. So then what happens is you bring people on board who aren't quite as good. So you have a dilution factor. And then you have to have a coaching factor to compensate for the dilution. And then you have to work out what return is that diluted representation of yourself going to do. And that's your scale model, isn't it? You can scale, but I hate to be so pragmatic, but you can scale based on a percentage of dilution, knowing that you're going to have a percentage of production. So the challenge is if you really want to grow, so you said New York, not really want to, you do want to, New York, Pennsylvania. I'm not so good on the East Coast, so forgive me, I'm from London. But you go to these areas, right? I just watched the football, right? Baltimore, that's not far away, right? I think. So you go to all these places, there's going to be somebody not quite as good as you. That's the truth. You're not an egotist, so you're not going to say that, but it's the truth. So what mechanisms do you put in place then to make sure that that person who now covers New York and the person who covers Philadelphia does the same standard as you, or at least a standard acceptable enough that you maintain the metrics?
Joe, do you want to jump in there? 30, 60, 90, kind of what you do?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. So expansion, right? I think the easiest way to expand is to dude, we're at EXP, man. Like you should just recruit another team. I think that right now I think what's happening is something in the world is something called the great consolidation. I think everything is becoming one. We all go to Amazon.
100% agree with that.
I'll go to Bing.
Totally agree with that.
So I go to I buy everything at Costco.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go to Trader Joe's or Sprouts, whatever. But like, I just think I'm not answering the question that you asked, but the way that I feel is that like, I've been thinking about this as well. And like, there's a lot of different ways to think about this is like, did you know I'm on the AAP and I speak to people at Zillow and I get the lists of like where the connections are available. They're in Akron, Ohio. They're in Honolulu. They're in Staten Island. They're in Chicago, wherever they are, right? They're in Bellingham, Washington, right? And that's a very interesting thought, right? And so what Chris is saying is number one, where we are in New Jersey is New Jersey is very densely populated. We're on top of each other, right? Like we're on top of each other, on top of each other, on top of each other, right? So we're in a very, very we're a densely populated area. So what Chris is saying is Chris is super smart because Chris is very, very strategic. He's like, dude, there's so much business to do here. Also in New Jersey, like I had a choice to be when I landed in California. I'm not going to share my whole story. I'm happy to share it with anyone, but I was selling. I broke into the luxury real estate market here, I had a choice to like be a realtor in Orange County or to build a business in New Jersey. And in New Jersey, I believe that we have something called a shift proof price point, right? So when you have a price point that's around 500 grand or 550, so you see this, like, aren't you guys in like the Inland Empire or whatever? Like
but we cover connections from North LA to San Diego, almost to the border.
Sure. So like I coach a big team, that's like a 300 unit team in the high desert, and holy shit, the opportunity is huge there because of the price point.
No doubt.
Here is houses are constantly trading, right? When I got to Orange County, I was like, my wife's a nurse. If we were living she makes good money, whatever, as a nurse.
I get it.
Plus, like in New Jersey, a nurse can buy a house.
Yeah.
Like there's all these things to consider. And I think the easiest way to fail is by expanding too fast. That's how businesses fail the fastest. And for me, I think the move would be to just have your shit dialed in, right? And have your systems and like what Chris is talking about, like the test outs and all this stuff's all documented, man. It's SOPs. It's like if you went to go work at a call center, I'm talking about like a random call center with like a bus stop out front, a cigarette smoking break area. Like they have SOPs, right? And they have standards.
For sure.
Make a certain amount of calls. I don't care what it is, man. And people crush in that role. And so you just need to have the same thing. And I think the smartest way to do it is just by partnering with another real estate team that's not at EXP that you can bring over, and then you are fully crazy incentivized to share this opportunity that you have with them. So when you're like, how do I find another Joe Oz? Like, you don't have to find another Joe Oz. Like, you just have to partner with another Joe Oz. And that's the craziest thing that I found is like, fuck, man, like Chris. Yeah, Chris is great, right? But Chris and I don't have any ego, right? And so like I'm gonna speak for me. I had to do a lot of work to get rid of that shit. So now I can be humble, right? I can come from curiosity, and I'm willing to partner with other people. It doesn't need to be about me, right? I now care more about I care more about the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. But when you get into real estate, the mega teams, the team leaders, the whatever, a lot of them are running a real estate team out of ego because they think they should. If they look at their real estate team, it's nowhere near as profitable as their personal business, right? And so a lot of them aren't going to do what we're doing or even want to do what we're doing, but someone like you or me or Chris, we see technology. We see inflation. We see interest rates. We see the future. We see Uber. We see EXP. We see Zillow. And we're like, fuck, man, there's a few people that are going to grab a hold of this thing and hold on super
okay,
tight.
now you're talking to my heart. So this is kind of not the direction we usually go on this conversation, but it's a great one. So Chris, I hope you don't mind us going down this route. But look, you look at DoorDash, right? Still, by the way, to turn a profit. They think they're going to turn a profit this year for the first time. And they're worth $4.1 billion, incidentally. You look at Uber, it took them, I don't know how many years. I believe it was 2009 they started. By 2019, they were turning their first profit. But that is massive scaling operation, Joe. And you and I can't do that because we run our teams, Chris, on our own money. So you just can't lose, $500,000 a month, right? So you run it on your own money. When you run on investors' money, investors are staking on the future. My point out of all this, we all understand that. My point out of this is the scaling piece. Where Zillow has us, where Realtor.com has us, where Uber has us, where Redfin has us, is that we tend to think about being nothing wrong with it at all, being the best or the most profitable, the highest performing group in a certain geocentric area, right? They think about what's a model that people will buy and sell homes. Who do we get to operate that model? How much do we make on that model? And what technology do we develop to support that model? Boom, away they go, 50 states. A lot of people don't know that Uber, by the way, started, Joe, in 10 blocks in San Francisco. Did you know that? 10 blocks is what they operated. So my point is this. You brought it up, and that's why I'm addressing it, is they developed technology to support massive scale. Can we do that as agents, or are we going to be, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but are we going to be the servants of Redfin type organizations forever? Or can we organize where the flag comes down and we're all united together and we create a similar platform to a Realtor.com, for example?
If someone does it, it's going to be Leo Perea at EXP. That's who's going to do it.
Yeah. But you see where I'm going with that, right? How do we create that technology platform that creates the scalability that Zillow has created or that Realtor.com has created?
I would ask you the same question.
Yeah, but we're struggling for it every day.
I think if you're, I'm not going to go play one-on-one against Michael Jordan, dude. Like, that ship sailed. I'm not competing with Zillow,
right,
man.
totally.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like find my way like in it. And really, to be quite honest, I think, there's a lot of opportunity in real estate no matter what. And so if we as team leaders can teach our agents how to like build their own businesses and stay in front of their sphere of influence and work it and do what they're supposed to do, everyone's going to do great. Everyone's going to do fine. You know what I mean? And I think Zillow should be, hold on. Let me think how I want to say this. I think that like an agent should be like Zillow, and they should be like a Zillow enabled agent, right? Like that should be one of their tools, right?
Dude, that's a really
good,
good,
like the thing that they do, right? And so like a Zillow enabled agent, right? And then so they should be able to do that, but they should be able to do other things and work their own business. I don't think, dude, I don't know, man. I don't think, I gotta watch.
No, I know. I realize why you're being so cautious. And look, you and I are in exactly the same place. We work on
advisory board, so like I love Zillow, and I think they're the best.
Brother, we work on we're on record. It's okay.
By the way, Zillow, if you can hear this, thank you for everything.
Right. We work our tails off for the Zillow project.
I went to Zillow Irvine this morning, watched every car in the parking lot before. So like, I'm like in it, man. Like I can, I pray to Zillow. My God is Zillow. I pray to him. As soon as I wake up in the morning, I hit my knees and I thank the Zillow gods for everything they've given to me.
But here's the issue: when you talk to the growth advisors, a lot of them, man, want us to grow personal business. Why do they want that? Because they know otherwise, after 3 years, a lot of the agents will burn out from running the leads. And if they have personal business, they sustain them and they'll work in them. You see the feed that we're both on that Leo has. That very often the team leaders are saying, gosh, my really best agents, I can't get them on Zillow.
I think Zillow is trying to do the best they can to figure this out.
I agree.
They just had a big, massive turnover in leadership, right? Which is really, I don't know. It's a fact. That's what happened. I don't have an opinion on it, but I think there's a lot of tech people coming in here. And if you know the Uber story, like you don't really need to know like if you watch the Uber document, it's not a document, the Super Pump thing on Netflix, or like tech people don't, from what I've seen, they don't care about people. They care about building technology, right? And like whoever gets like smoked gets smoked. But here's the thing is Zillow can't do this without people. Like they can't do it without realtors, man. Like it's just they need, like it's like Uber, like that scene in the Uber thing where he's like, when are we gonna have, like when is it gonna be regulated so that we have driverless cars, right? That was his like challenge, right? Like that was the problem. And so it's kind of the same thing. Like you can't have driverless door openers. They tried that, right? So I think we all need each other, man. We just got to figure out a way to work together. And we want the best of the best out there. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is.
All right, so let's wrap it up, if you don't mind. The last 5 minutes, 5 or 7 minutes on some granular questions, probably going to go back to Chris. When a lead comes in, Chris, how do you pick the right agent? Or do they go direct to the agents in your case?
Yeah, it's there's different ways. So there's different ways I guess I can answer that. So they do go direct to the agent. It goes in some, if one agent doesn't answer, it goes to the next. But there's an algorithm that the agents that are converting a highest level, they're getting the most amount of opportunities. And so they're going to have a various amount of opportunities to choose from. And if you're converting at X percentage on a consistent basis and you want 20 something leads a month and you're consistently closing them, that's there. In terms of, monitoring, the same way we go slow with quantity, we go slow with price ranges, right? Our top converters, going back to, our best agents not wanting leads, our top converters are getting the top leads, right? Our top agents, our experienced one who's been doing this, proven themselves over quantity, have a good sample size, they're getting the best price points, they're getting the most quantity, and getting the most amount of opportunities. And us developing the bottom of it slower starts to point out those people who are going to be next in line.
Do you think Zillow is going to geotag all the agents over the next year so that they know the agent's close enough to handle the lead?
I think I do. It's something that, one of the big changes I made when I first came on board is that's what I dove into.
Yeah, I have an ankle bracelet. When you're on the AEB, they give you an ankle bracelet. They're like, you have to show up.
Joe, I was trying to keep that quiet, buddy. You just ruined the whole podcast. I mean, for goodness sake, get some decorum here. This is why they have British people, Joe, to create this false sense of decorum in the world.
Sorry, I had to jump in. I hope we're having fun.
It's but what I do is like I'm already on proximity. So the first question when we start leads is where do you live? Where do you spend majority of your time? So everything within I'm trying to, for agents that truly, because what you get is, I'll cover wherever.
Yeah, for sure.
I've heard that story plenty of times, and I've seen that wake up. What it leads to is frustration, too much time in the car. Oh, I drove this far, got stood up. It creates too much of that. So what I'm trying to do is keep it as local as possible within a 30-minute radius. Goal-wise, I just have everybody within, 20 minutes and, their main markets, but trying to keep within a 30-minute distance from where they live and spend majority of their time. That's what I would base it off of.
What percentage would you say of your connections the buyer's agent gets ghosted?
Not in term at an appointment.
Yeah, you said it and it seems good, and they say they're going to show.
Very few. Yeah,
very few.
Yeah, our process, because we're building that in, right? It was probably higher early on, but that's kind of built in our follow-up and making sure people show up. So we're reiterating the appointment time multiple times. We're doing a confirmation by text right afterwards. We're trying to get on a call and talk to them before we ever even meet them to begin with. And then there's confirmation that text that go out hours before. So if there's cancellations, they typically would happen before. They're not getting stood up. We're trying to take measures to present that.
I just love this, and operational people will love this. So when the call comes in from Zillow or Realtor, whoever it is that sends you the lead, right? The call goes to you, Chris, or the call goes direct to the agent?
Yeah, calls go directly to our agents.
So then who does that screening in between? You train the agent then to call back and double verify and so on and so forth between?
So a lot of our connections are live connections. We have two types of connections. One that come in through the app that are like real-time touring
Right.
request, and then we have the direct connections where you speak to a live consumer on the phone right there.
Right.
So it's directly being contacted. Once that conversation happens, everything gets integrated into follow-up boss. And then the next step in our process is to text them through that number and give them a summary, let them know you're confirming the appointment. You're going to get right back to them with everything. Here's my number, reiterate your survey, and and then contact them back once the appointment is confirmed.
So is there an attrition there between the appointment set and you're met with? And what is that attrition? We're losing a little
Yeah,
bit.
so
yeah, go. Gotcha.
yeah, so one thing we're always trying to do is keep the appointment within 48 hours. So our rule of thumb is to keep within 48 hours of the request. So if it's Tuesday and somebody requests an appointment on Saturday or Sunday, we're trying to keep that closer. We have scripts, objection handlers to keep that range closer to that 48-hour window. What we learn is outside of that 48 hours from the time their motivation starts to dip. In those other scenarios, we're trying to do virtual tours potentially to meet them before that appointment on the weekend. So I think that timeline from when you're setting the appointment is one big leading indicator of just trying to get when their motivation is the highest, right? You want to meet them within that first 48 hours and have other options as well, not just meeting them at one property, but having several other options set up for when you meet them so you can spend as much time as them as possible.
So last granular question, of all the showings, let's say you do, I don't know, you probably do 1,000, but let's just say out of 200 showings in a month, what percentage of those are the agents showing more than one property?
Oh,
very high.
All of them.
If we're having 200 appointments, yeah, like our goal would be 100. Like we're trying to set up multiple property for every single person we meet.
Got it.
So if we're going to meet them at one property, we already have 2 others scheduled before we even meet them.
Joe, Chris, look, let's wrap it up with this. I want to ask you a general question. You're fantastic. By the way, I miss having Dylan on this. I am not cool like him, and he is just so cool on this thing. So can you get him back, Joe? I think he's doing military duty right now, so that's why he couldn't join us today. But anyway, so he's back, not this episode, but the next one. Look, obviously 2024 was just, in my 36 years in doing this, it was more disruptive than 2008. This was just a crazy year. And 25 is coming up. Our motto for 25 is thrive in 25. I've got a really positive attitude. We're going to build out. We're into consumers. We're into, let's go, right? But a lot of people, Joe, Chris, if you really said the truth and you followed them home at night and watched them lay their head down on a pillow, they're a little scared or a little frustrated. Or some of the stronger ones like you guys are like, I want to kick tail and this is what I'm going to do. But you took the majority, I would say the majority are lying down, to use an English word, at least disconcerted, right? What would you say to your colleagues who watch this, not in front of other people? Because if they're at a conference, they pretend everything's okay. When you want to catch people is when they're putting their head down on the pillow. What would you say to them putting their head down on the pillow of what you're going to do, what's next in our industry, and what they should do to be part of it?
Feels really good at this.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I think he's acquiescing to you here, Joe.
Yeah. So the question is what would you say to someone going into the new year? Things are tough, and what is this, like inspiration to keep your head up, or why we should keep going, or maybe?
I think more practical, because everybody can go to one of the motivational speakers, start to walk on coals, but they still can't sell real estate. What is it that you would say to them in the context of our real estate business, which is we're team leaders and agents have got frustrations? What's the best things that we can do and the agents can do that they feel like, yeah, I'm ready to give this a go again in 2025?
Sure. I think, I don't know, man. I'm really super passionate about real estate, man. Like my parents had me when they were 19. They really didn't have very much. We didn't grow up with very much. And I think real estate's a level playing field. And I think there's a lot of, what I mean by that is if you're born with a silver spoon or you have nothing, like it's a level playing field, man. You can build
I agree.
something, you can build wealth. And there's just like and then the more you do it, the more it builds, it compounds, right? It's the same with like bad shit too. If like you eat poorly or you keep charging the credit card, like you can do it's gradual, then it's sudden, but it's the same in real estate, man. And like if you keep at it and you keep going, it just builds and compounds. And dude, if you stay with it, it just gets better and better and better. And there's more and more and more opportunities. And so I think what I would say is that Chris just said it earlier, like one of our mottos is that like two heads are better than one. And if I think what happens is like you just said, like people just need to get real and they need to ask for help. I don't know, I need help are two things that people should be saying over and over and over, but they don't. Their ego won't let them and then they fail, right?
Yeah.
It's too late, right? Like it's like the addict or the alcoholic, right? Like they'll die before they ask for help, right? Like they're so in their disease and they're so down in a dark place. But like if they raise their hand and ask for help, it's probably there and you can get better. It's the same with real estate, man. And then I'll say this, man, the highs are high, the lows are low, right?
Yeah.
And so guess what, right? And so if you look at the real estate, a real estate cycle is like it goes up and it's down and everyone gets in when it's at the top, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's gotten out now and it's going to go back around. And really, like if you look at it like a hill, right? Like this or a bell, right? And so like everyone's like at the bottom of the bell here, like getting out, like it's almost like a slide, like getting out of the business, right? And then over here, like when you come back around and go up the stairs to the slide, which is the other side of the bell, like right here is where you really want to be when it starts picking up again. And that's what's about to happen again, right?
I agree totally.
So that's it, man.
I have some insight on this. Also is, I mean, it just sounds like very similar to how just Joe and I met to begin with. So it's exactly kind of where I was late 2022, early 2023. It's like, what do I do? Right. Like, because like you see the business growing over time and now we're doing less transactions and everything. So the one thing I would say is, reach out to everybody who's not in that situation, right? Like our agents on our team we are as busy as we've ever been. Like we've grown this year by a certain percentage. It's having conversations with everybody in your market that's doing it at the highest level still, who's continuing to grow. And it's diving into those networks and the people that are in our network and that we're having conversations with, it's about growth. It's not going the other way.
Crazy story, guys, to wrap it up with. I just love all the input today. Joe, Chris, 2006, the collapse happens with the banks and they fell one by one. 21st century, First Franklin, one by one. I was just doing personal production back then. Okay. So this is what, 17, 18 years ago. I had 14 properties in escrow. At that time, pretty much every month, I'd have 10 properties in escrow, personal production. I had 14 in escrow. 1 week later, I had 2. Because all the banks we were funding with closed. That, you got to wrap your mind around it. And I did. This isn't about me, but I'm just sharing with you just from a very real place what that was like. And by 2008, I was struggling to pay the bills, did whatever I could and did pay the bills, kept my house. Most of my friends, 65% of my friends lost their homes. And then I got a call from the ex-president of Countrywide and started to sell REOs. And there was a huge turnaround after that. 2013, I bought 321 homes for a hedge fund and personally found them and drove all over California. And the point I'm trying to make is what you just said, is when the going gets tough, you surround yourself with the right people. You look for the right people. You guys are the right people. I think people who find you are lucky. Really, I mean that. They are lucky to find you. And I'm going to take the advice from you and go in our community and look for the people who want to be strong and be strong alongside them. And I'm with Joe completely that I believe we're just right at the front of a huge uptick in many aspects of real estate. To me, one of those biggest upticks is there's going to be a huge flux of consumers direct to agents. I believe that's a massive change that's coming. That's a cultural change. And I want to be right at the front of that. And I want to thank you both. I mean, you are good people. And I think the people who are with you are bloody lucky. And I want to thank you for joining us on Team Growth Mastermind.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, guys. All the best.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.